Hello, Brandon. How you doing tonight?
Good. How are you, Liam?
I'm good. We are talking anime. It has been. I haven't actually talked with you about anime in a long time because we wanted to do the What's Next anime podcast. It is a new anime podcast. I thought would be pretty nice to put out there in the world for people who constantly keep asking, "Hey, Liam, what's the next anime we should watch? What's the next anime I should watch? I just watched X series. What should I watch next?" So
hmm
I decided we do a little podcast. I'm Liam. This is Brandon,
How's it going?
and we've been watching. Well, I've been watching anime for a very long time. Brandon, when did you start like actively like following series?
Actively, probably about 3 to 4 years ago. For actively, and then not super actively, like following up with the airing shows till about a year ago.
And I started back whenever the Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya first aired, sometime I believe in 2006. I'm just gonna double check right now. Um, that may have been season two, may have been 2009. I can't remember. It's been. I'm getting. If I'm not at 10 years by now, I'm pretty close to 10 years. So it has been a while since I joined the community as a whole. Um, but we're gonna talk about we watched this recent season, and then we're gonna talk about what we plan to watch in the next season. Because this is gonna be something we do about roughly 8 times a year. There will be an episode every seasonal transition, or at least around it. Um, we'll try to get as close to the ending or the beginning of a season as possible. Maybe we'll go right in the middle of a week where nothing's really airing, nothing's really showing. Um, and then we'll also do an episode every season about midway through, around episode 5, 6, or 7. I don't really have an exact time on when we're gonna actually get through to recording these. It's just gonna kind of happen roughly around those times, whatever works best for us.
Yeah,
Um,
and this isn't a terrible time because you got about a week until the next season starts.
yeah, most. I think I can double check this right now because I got anime chart up right here. But I'm pretty sure next winter, some of these episodes. Let's see, it looks like a lot of them are
About 7 to
just.
12 days, from what I see.
Yeah, we got about a week until the next season starts. And this one's still kind of ending. I know of the shows I watched. Um, Bunny Girl Senpai's done. Zombieland Saga is done. Uh, and Anime Yell are also done. Those three are shows I was watching that was finished. In total, this season I tried tried 12 shows, and I either didn't get around to actually watching them, uh, or I didn't finish, or I didn't finish 4 of them. So, what was your? Let's start with what were you? What did you watch this season, Fire, that kind of blew you away? We'll start with that. What did you watch fall 2018 that was that surprised you?
So I'm. This is gonna be kind of cheating because I guess it's like a triplicate. But there were I watched quite a few shows this season, but there were a few that I was going in with I didn't know what to expect, or like I guess I wasn't sure what was going to happen, and they blew me away. I think the most popular or wide known, at least now, of those would be Rascal. And since you've seen it as well, I won't completely elaborate on that on my own. I just want to mention the other two first. One of the other ones is only halfway done because it's a two core. That was Run with the Wind, which is a
Run with
Production
the Wind.
IG's track show. It it had a very, I'd say, like not very streamlined start because while it on the surface looks like a sports anime, and that's probably what it is at its core. It started more like a character drama because they don't actually do any sporty things till a good 4, 5, 6 episodes in, and they don't start any of them as like willing participants until much later, other than the one person that was trying to get them to participate. And then, go ahead.
I haven't seen a ton of like my experience with anime doesn't have a lot of sports involved with it. I've seen Free. I've seen parts of Haikyuu.
Yeah, so this is done by the studio that did Haikyuu.
Oh, okay.
Production IG, and I believe I've only seen a couple as well. I've seen all of Haikyuu, but I think Haikyuu is the only sports show I've seen, if I'm remembering correctly. And then the third show that took me away, it's not done yet. I think it's about to finish tomorrow, actually, is Irozoku Sekai no Ashitakara, which is, I think the English is like a world of colors, something along those lines. It's the PA Works show this season. It might be a little under the radar because it was an Amazon Prime exclusive.
Oh, that'll do it. That's what killed Grand Blue last season. Not a lot of people watch Grand Blue, and that show was hysterical.
But yeah, it's you know, PA Works. They did Shirobako, what's the other one? Sakura. Quite a few. They're very well known. It's a really well animated show, and the basic synopsis is that there's this girl who lives in the future. I think it's like 50 or 60 years into the future, and she's lost her sense of color. And they live in a world where it's kind of fairly standard world. The only difference is there are mages. It's kind of just like a profession. And her grandmother sends her 60 years into the past, into 2018, to meet with the younger version of herself to try and, I guess, find herself. Because while she literally is colorblind, she also lost part of herself, like emotion, connections with other people, that kind of thing, along with the ability to see color. So it's a really well animated and thus far well written show.
Yeah, I've never seen anything about this show. I went the whole
But
season.
those were the 3 dark horses for me this season.
Yeah, I didn't have many shows, I guess, I kind of watched that a lot of people didn't. I stayed pretty mainstream. I fell into the cute girls do cute thing genre twice this season. I didn't actually expect to, but it kind of happened. I watched Anima Yell, which is this cheerleading show. It follows this one girl who's super into cheerleading in like middle school, and she wants to start something in high school. So she starts her own high school cheerleading squad, and it was a really comfy show. It was nice to watch as like a stress reliever because it was just super fun. And then I also watched a show. Get the English name here real quick. Miss Vampire Who Lives in My Neighborhood. This one I started. I got to maybe episode 8 or 9, and then I stopped. Not because I didn't like it, but I just stopped watching it because I was starting to watch other things. Those are my 2 real big odd ones that not many people were watching or keeping their eye on. Some people were, but you definitely had the bigger oddballs this season, especially the Amazon one, the color one that I didn't even see anything about, or at least much about. There were some big shows this season. There were some very big shows and some stuff that if we had done this like transition episode at the start of this season, I probably would have never mentioned Zombieland Saga. That completely...
No, exactly. Because other than the studio, nothing about that like jumps out to you.
Yeah, they did I guess early on they released episode 1 to a bunch of people at a convention, and they got to watch it. And people saw the first episode, and a lot of them were like, "Oh my god, this is really good. You all are gonna love this." And then it came out, and everyone was like, "Oh my god, this first episode, it was really good. We all love this." It was really fun. But I didn't know anything about this. I'm pretty sure it was an original piece. I don't think there was any. Yeah. There wasn't any manga or light novels or anything in relation
source
to this.
material, basically.
Yeah. So nobody knew what we were expecting from it, and it absolutely blew us away. There was a couple YouTubers who made videos talking about it already, but overall, this was, if Zombieland Saga would probably be my anime of the season if I had to tag anything. As much as I'm a slut for Goblin Slayer and Bunny Girl Senpai, Zombieland Saga just blew me away. In terms of it was just fun. It was another one of those series where I was watching it week by week the second the episode came out. It was that one, Anime Yell, Index, and Bunny Girl Senpai. Those were the 4 that I was constantly watching the second they aired. What are your thoughts on because there was a moment in Zombieland Saga where there's some people in the community who got pissed, and I thought it was really cool how they approached it. How the one character, what was her name? I'll pull it up right
Oh, I know what you're about to say.
Where Lily is, this is going to be a minor spoiler, but I wanted to talk about this because I thought it was really cool how they approached this. How Lily from the show Zombieland Saga is transgender. I thought it was really cool how they approached it. Some people in the community were pissed. I don't see how you could be mad. I thought they approached it really well. I thought it was... There were some people who I was talking about this with, and they didn't even... like, the first time they're watching it through, I don't know how they didn't realize it, that they were making references to how she was a guy, or was a guy. I don't know how it flew under so many people's radars. And then you'd look it up online, they're like, oh my god, Lily's transgender, and here's all these signs, and it's like, it's not something many shows touch on. You could probably nitpick a couple series that I've talked about it in the past, but this is definitely like one of the bigger like surprises I've seen from an anime in a long time with a transgender main cast character, and I thought it was really cool how they approached it. That's the only thing I wanted to really bring up about the show, other than it being really fun.
Yeah, no, I agree that it was approached pretty well. I think it's an easy thing to say, especially on the internet where it's easy to get mad. The biggest complaint generally about those types of things is that sometimes, and I'm not saying it was done in this show, quite the opposite actually, is that sometimes shows will do it just to have the token representation, like do it just to do it for its sake, rather than like basically force it. And I don't think that's what they did this time. I think they did it pretty well. But I think people have been, in some cases, that's happened to them so many times that even when it is done well, they can't see it. They only see it as being forced upon them, I guess.
Yeah.
But no, I do want to say it was probably it's probably the funniest show of the season.
Oh yeah. I loved it.
And that's I'm actually let's see. I didn't finish yet because as much as I loved it, a lot of times comedy, especially episodic comedy, doesn't drive me to see it the second it comes out. It's more like whenever it strikes me a mood. Like if I want to, or if I need something that's going to make me laugh, I like having something that'll make me laugh that I haven't seen yet. So it's kind of like stockpiling it in a bank, that kind of thing. And then to transition, comedy and a show that's just fun is the main reason I've been recently really enjoying the other show with the terrible title, as well as Rascal, which is that one time I got reincarnated as a slime.
Oh, that one's really fun. I've read so I'm super into reading light novels and manga, and we'll get into that when we talk about Goblin Slayer, and when we eventually talk about Rising of the Shield Hero. But I've read some of the manga for that time I got reincarnated as a slime. That one is a really fun show as well. I loved this season. We had Goblin Slayer, which wasn't isekai, it was fantasy, and then we had the time I got reincarnated as a slime, which is an isekai show, but the approach on it's a little different. I think it's a very unique in that it's a comedy, and it's also the main character is absolutely busted. And we'll talk about another type of isekai when we talk about shield hero for next season.
Mm-hmm.
But
I've seen a lot of people talking about it as it's almost kind of like the Anti-Overlord, which is a pretty popular and pretty good show from this earlier in this year, in that the main character is completely busted, but this show's kind of wholesome in the fact that the main character just kind of wants to help people, whereas in the other case he's using his power for something different, a different objective.
Yeah.
But what I love in this show, other than the fact that the comedy was so well written, is that you can really tell the people that were writing it had a very, very good grasp and understanding of this like video gamey D&D like esque ability system. Like even in the first episode, when they basically decide he's going to be a slime because of the multiple complaints he had as he was killed as to why like those were weaknesses, etc. And then how he gains the abilities later.
Yeah,
it's really nice. Yeah. It's really nice to see like an authentic take on that. When a lot of times, sometimes you'll just see, and I guess I'll hark on it a little bit because it actually is airing this season, which was the new SAO. It was one of the first shows I ever saw, so I really enjoyed it when it first came out. But if you go back to it now, there's a lot of, I won't say inconsistencies, but there's a lot of like, I guess if you were to judge the game itself, there's a lot of holes there that you could peer through if you wanted to. But no, that's what I'm really enjoying about Slime.
Yeah, I only started a couple episodes in at the Alicization, and then I stopped watching it for a while, and then I was reading Reddit, and there was like not like a big outrage, not as big as Goblin Slayer, but there was a minor outrage because I guess in a recent episode it got pretty gruesome.
It very much. So that was one of the shows, because I was watching with a good friend of mine. I was watching week to week. That's probably the main reason. And it was I think he actually had read ahead in the light novels or whatever the source material is, and I hadn't. And it was so bad that there was a content like discretion advisory at the beginning of the episode.
Yeah, at least it had one, unlike Goblin Slayer's first episode.
Yeah.
But continue.
No. So it was very, it was very graphic. I don't know if you saw this. There was actually a tweet from Reki Kawahara after the episode aired, and it was basically him apologizing to the voice actors for and applauding them on their performances for that scene, just because how graphic and kind of ridiculous it was. I think, and I don't know the exact specifics of the wording, but essentially, when he had been growing up, there was an author he looked to, and that author had very oftentimes used violence, sexual assault, even bordering on rape as a way to build tension. And so I guess, I mean, I'm sure you've seen the earlier seasons. So he even recognizes himself that he, in his earlier days, relied on that a little too much. And that might be part of the outrage.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely shocked a lot of people. I mean, back in SAO Season 2, or was it, no, Season 1 and the second arc when they were in the...
Yeah, the end of the second arc.
Yeah, it was pretty. It was pretty not comfy. It made me uncomfy watching some of the things that Azusa had to go through in the second arc of the first season. But it didn't hit nearly as deep as this one did. It was pretty gruesome. But nonetheless, I heard a lot of people who were watching Alicization and loved it. I didn't. I only got a couple episodes in. One day I'll probably go back and actually watch SAO Season 3, but from what you tell me, it seems like it was pretty good otherwise.
It is not that bad. I think it's a lot more engaging than certainly parts of the first arc, simply because for one, I guess it's going to be like a much bigger storyline, and then for two, they did something different, which was, rather than just focusing on him, or at least the character that Kirito was before, it starts just like with him in this world, and you just again, if you haven't read the source material, you have no context for why he's just not only stuck in this world, but before he didn't even have memories of the other world. So it's just like, oh, is this just like, you know, a different life, or what is this? So I think it's and then I don't know how well it's going to be executed, but they're approaching a lot more interesting, I guess, technology points, in that rather than, you know, just being a video game with a bunch of other players, nope, the rest of them are AIs. And I guess the entire point of the Alicization world is that they're trying to create, I guess, souls from these AIs. I don't have a full grasping of why or how, but it is engaging, and the music is just as great as it always is. So
oh yeah,
that's one plus. The OP and ED are fantastic.
Yeah, the Alicization opening, and the Zombieland Saga opening are my 2 openings of the season. Like, if I couldn't, I think.
Oh, I agree completely. The Zombieland opening is fantastic.
I like the Zombieland opening, the minute 30 TV size version, better than the Alicization one, but the Alicization one has a lot better full version. Mostly because the Zombieland Saga one doesn't have all the sound effects and the cut-ins and the cues that I really liked in the opening. I might be in the minority in that opinion, but I really liked all like the sparkles and the beating, and
it's not something you see out of very many shows these days, with the exception of the last time you see any JoJo OP.
Oh yeah, JoJo does that a lot, but yeah,
I'm generally not a huge guy on EDs. In fact, like, I love music so much. I think I've almost, like, in all the anime I've ever watched, I think I'm almost never skipped an OP, even if I wasn't crazy about it, because I just thought it was, you know, more hassle than it was worth trying to find where to skip. And even if it wasn't the best song ever, I just enjoyed it for what it's worth, because even if it was okay, generally their job is to get you in the mood for enjoying whatever it is going to be, whatever type of show it's going to be. But for whatever reason, I absolutely love Rascal's Bunny Girl's ED. The ending is so great.
I'm in the same boat. I don't watch a ton of like EDs. Not too many. Not too many are on my phone. Not too many I listen to often. But Bunny Girl Senpai did have a nice ending. I like the opening too. There's a lot of jokes in the Reddit community about the Kimi no Se.
Yeah, the first time I ever saw that opening was the first, like, little light bulb going inside your head, thinking, this is already different from what I expected, having read this title, because it gave me both the song itself and the visuals gave me a really big, like, Your Name feel, like, aesthetic, style, what have you.
Yeah, my first impression was I read the title and I saw the picture and I was like, what is this? I thought it was going to be some really ecchi, disgusting show. And then I read the description and I saw episode 1 and I was like, that's the exact opposite of what I was expecting.
Yeah, no, there's a few YouTubers I watch, and basically how they decide before anything comes out whether they want to watch the show is they just go through any chart and read the synopsis and the titles and the studios, because that's all the information you have.
Yeah.
And literally all of them went, well, that show's gonna be terrible. And then you know, people, especially if they're fans of that person or whatever, be like, you were wrong, you need to apologize. I'm like, I was wrong that the show's gonna be terrible, but I wasn't wrong based off of the information I had, because both the title and the synopsis are a lie. It's not what it's about. Yeah,
the title about her being a bunny girl and like the description, that's only relevant the first like 2 or 3 episodes. And then you get into more of this dude's life, and it's a lot of fun. The ending was really good. I'm not going to say too much about the ending.
I wouldn't either, because I haven't. I'm watching that with a friend, so I'm finishing that show tonight. I've got the last episode to go. It hurt to not watch it when it aired, but that's what happens when you watch with people sometimes. Sacrifices.
Definitely the best voice acting from the season came from the last episode of Bunny Girl Senpai. Easy. There's no doubt. The ending was just, it was very good. Sadly, not my animated season. It was fun. It's definitely a top contender, definitely a top 3. But I had a lot more fun with. I'd still put Zombieland Saga on my number 1, but it was still fun. Bunny Girl Senpai was still good. I'd recommend it to anybody that's kind of into like the supernatural sort of. It had a little bit of mystery into it, but I wouldn't give it the mystery tag in its entirety.
Yeah, it's basically like this. It's just like it's not exact. So it was pretty funny for not being a comedy at all. But it's basically like this romance, supernatural drama, essentially. And I've always been fascinated by a few of those shows. There's a few of them, like Kuroko Connect, or I think people were telling me, so I'm probably going to check out that franchise. But I think the Monogatari series has a pretty similar feel. So I'm like, oh, I'm glad this introduced me into something. But I always think that is cool because you can use the supernatural plot line or vehicle, which is already interesting by itself, and then you can use that to put these characters in interesting situations and draw out like these social commentaries out of it.
Yeah, I love the way it approached everything. All the arcs were fun. There wasn't a dull moment in the show. There wasn't a moment in the show where I was kind of skipping to kind of get to the next part or skipping someone's monologue to kind of get through it. Everything felt necessary and it was really fun.
Yeah, and it wasn't because like you say that it wasn't a mystery, but it was the reason you said that is because like it kept you on your toes a little bit.
Yeah,
because nothing about it was predictable.
Yeah,
like in some ways you knew how a certain thing might be resolved, but you weren't ready for whatever the next problem was. Like it just comes out of left field, and I kind of felt that way in a little different sense in Gridman. Like both Gridman and Rascal, every single week we'll be like, okay, so how are they gonna blow my mind this week? Because there were a lot of curveballs in that show.
Did you finish Gridman? Did you finish?
Yeah, finished it a couple days ago.
Okay, I didn't watch it at all. I just know people were going crazy about Riko's thighs.
It has a very good opening too, so I'll probably send you that just because it's one of shows don't do that a lot, and it did it most of the beginning episodes where the second you hit play, you just get the opening and it throws you into the show. And there's not a ton of shows that do that because generally there's some kind of, whether it's a recap or you get into the show and then there's the opening and then the show. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I've never seen anything Gridman related. I've never watched anything. I'm not really super into the mech or
me either.
Genre.
I'm just a trigger slut in the same way that I'm a KyoAni and PA work. Speaking of KyoAni, they did have a show this season. It was about archery, and it's still airing. And it is not as complex as Run with the Wind, but it in some cases is actually more intimate because the cast is a bit smaller. But and again, I'm not much of a sportsy guy, but at least these two sports shows don't even feel like sports shows so much as they feel like dramas. And I guess in both of these cases, they're listed as dramas in addition to being sports.
Yep, didn't watch this either. I usually watch everything Kyoto Annie related. I even watched all seasons of Free. I didn't watch the most recent one, but I saw most of Free. But I mostly watch everything, and I just didn't get to this one. I just wasn't interested. Not this time around.
Thanks to you, I'm definitely gonna check out Anima Yell though, because I generally I don't mind fluffy stuff, especially if it's done by like good studios, and then I recognize, even though it's not like a huge name, at least in my mind, I was like, I recognize that Toga Kobo. Oh my god, they did Plastic Memories, they did New Game, they did Yuri Yuri, they did Gabriel Joppo. I'm like, I've seen so much of their stuff. I'll probably check this out.
Yeah, I was just Anime Yell wasn't even on my radar. It's another show, just like Zombieland Saga. If we had done this at the beginning, probably wouldn't have mentioned it. I only picked it up because I think somebody made a funny Reddit post or someone dropped the music somewhere. I saw a meme or something, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna watch this. And then it was like episode 2 or 3 was already out when I started watching it, and I binged those 3 and like immediately. it was fun. I really liked that one. But getting back to, we only have a couple more shows left to talk about this season. I was gonna save the ones that are from light novels that I've read for last. You didn't watch JoJo, did you? That's not like a oh man, he watched JoJo tone. That's a I'm just generally curious if you watched JoJo because I didn't.
No. I actually I really enjoyed what I've seen of JoJo's. It's another one where a friend got me into it, so I'm currently making my way through part 3.
Yeah, I need to.
A friend got me into it actually pretty recently, so we've gone fast, at least by my own terms, because I generally don't binge. Yeah. So for all of these that were kind of sequels or continuations, JoJo's, Fairy Tail, Golden Kamui, and Index, I plan on watching all of them. I'm just currently on the earlier iterations.
Yeah. I'm caught up in Fairy Tail and Index. I have not started JoJo's. I have not started Golden Kamui.
It's a funny story.
Ghoul.
I haven't even started. I haven't even started Index yet. Someone recommended, and I actually don't mind that they recommended this because I've heard like the order isn't super important as long as you don't skip numbers. I started with Railgun.
Yeah, that's
I'm almost done with season 1 of Railgun.
Yeah, they I've read the Index light novel. I've read the Railgun manga. I'm caught up in the manga as far as it can be. And then in Index, I read a lot of the first iteration. I haven't really started much of the New Testament. But Index as a whole, yeah, you can really watch this. You can start the series with Railgun. I don't think there's any problem with it, because technically Season 1 of Railgun, in terms of the universe's timeline, is before Railgun Season 1. Just briefly, I believe. I could be wrong. I might be wrong. I'm like 90% positive it is. But Index Season 3 was fun. They covered a really big arc that I've been waiting for years on, because I watched Index Season 2 when it aired, and so I'm one of the people that had to wait. Like,
yeah, it was 6 years ago? Like, that was quite a long time ago.
I forgot. I was either 6 or 8 years ago was when Index Season 2 aired. So I have been waiting for a very long time. The biggest
wait I ever had to wait was like
2011.
Attack on Titan. Attack on Titan was the biggest wait I had to wait. Or I guess kind of SAO, but it's not like neither of those I was super hyped about, as I'm sure you were for Index.
Index Season 2 aired when I was in middle school. Like, it finished airing my last year of middle school, and into my freshman year of high school. I am now a senior in college, and it's Index Season 3 is here.
The only things I can like relate that to would be The Incredibles, which we just got for, or Kingdom Hearts 3. Like, I can't imagine waiting that long for like another season.
I'm still waiting for Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya Season 3. That's never gonna happen. But if it ever does happen, I will literally scream. I will.
Is it on the same level as Valve? Like, you'll never get anything 3 from them. Portal,
exactly.
Half-Life.
Kyoto Animation will never do a Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya Season 3. And if they ever did, I would actually.
Do they do season 3 of any of their stuff? Like, I would die if they. I would die if they did a Hibiki Euphonium season 3.
Oh my god. They don't really do it often. They have free season 3, but other than that,
as a band nerd, like, that show hit me even harder than, because it was already good.
So, not to get too sidetracked, we can talk about Kyoto Annie for hours.
Yeah,
but
just
Index
about our favorite.
Index was really fun. I've enjoyed season 3 so far. It's a little quicker paced than I would have liked. And as much as I was looking forward to it and expecting it to be my anime of the season, because oh my god, I've been waiting like 6 years for it. No, it's not. I mean, it's good, but it's not. Like, the pace is a little too fast for me. I think it could be a little tad slower, but I get what they're trying to do with it. I mostly look forward to Railgun Season 3 and Accelerator, Certain Scientific Accelerator starting up. Because those were both announced spin-off series to Index.
Oh, that's awesome. See, I'm not even far enough to like know that much about Accelerator. Other than he's a great character, I didn't know he's getting his own. That's pretty great. Technically,
there's 3 main characters. It's supposed to be Toma, Accelerator, and then what the hell is this blonde dude's name? I forgot his name. Save me now, Annie List. Okay, it's not here. This guy's name, I forgot. There's a blonde dude in the show. He used to be the leader of.
I see him in the thumbnail
yeah.
or the poster, or whatever.
Yeah, he's the third quote unquote main character, the third protagonist. I consider Misaka a main protagonist as well, but she doesn't really push and pull the index timeline as much as those three end up doing. She pushes her own timeline along, but she does have an influence. So I would consider her a fourth quote unquote main character, a main protagonist. Okay. But yeah, Accelerator's getting his own series. Railgun is getting a third season, and I look forward.
I'm hyped for that, and I'm not even done with one yet because I've been enjoying Railgun.
Yeah, Accelerator's.
Disclaimer: cool. I'm watching Railgun dubbed just because I really like the cast. I don't know if I'll watch Index sub. I've watched all these shows this season sub though.
Yeah.
I'm generally I'm not half and half, but I'm like I'll do whichever I think is better, and in a lot of cases that's subs, but sometimes there's a really good dub cast.
I don't really care for either. I know some people prefer dubs, and if people prefer dubs and I'm watching with them, sure, I'll watch dubs. I don't care. I just want to see the series. I just want to see what they have. How I get fed the information doesn't matter to me.
Yeah.
But I do have a preference for subs, since I've been watching subs for too long. But yeah, Index was fun. But enough of talking about that. I've read a lot of light novel, but I'm not super into that light novel as much as I am. Was Goblin Slayer. Goblin Slayer was... I didn't talk about this for a little bit. Okay. So I knew what Goblin Slayer was going to be. I knew every single scene. I knew how they were going to set it up before this show aired. Because before the show came out, before it was even announced to have an anime, I picked up the light novels at my local Mitsuwa market. They had a KyoAni or Kyo something bookstore in there. And I picked up a bunch of light novels, and Goblin Slayer was one of them. So I knew fully well what the opening scene was going to be. And I am shocked that they didn't put a disclaimer or a warning of any kind before the first episode, or any of the episodes in this series for that matter, because I knew it was going to be very dark. I was waiting for the first episode to see Goblin Slayer slaughter some goblins, and he does that. I mean, it's in the title. He does a lot. But yeah, it was pretty gruesome. I wasn't fazed by it, but a lot of people were pissed, especially since it had the rape scene, and it was just all around just hard to stomach watching the first episode of Goblin Slayer. I don't know if you watched any of it.
I plan on doing so. I just had so much on my plate that that wasn't one of the ones I was. And I'm also, let's see, what's the best term? I guess squeamish. I'm not gonna let that stop me from seeing something because I know a lot of people have said it's very good. I just, I guess it takes a little more time for me to like put aside stuff to watch it rather than I can just deep dive into it.
Yeah, I didn't. No, I didn't. Like I said, I knew it was gonna be gruesome. It wasn't nearly as bad as it was in the manga or in the light novel, but it was still, nonetheless, pretty bad. I knew a lot of people weren't expecting it. I guess, like, the best way I can put it is kind of like, I guess it wasn't necessary, but it wasn't needed, but the way it was put in was okay. It was okay at best. I understand why the author did it. He wanted to set up the universe. He wanted to set up goblins as being these terrible, nasty creatures, and he wanted to have a true dark fantasy series. He didn't want it to be like a dark fantasy series and like, oh, maybe something small, bad happens every now and then. But no, he wanted this to be. He wanted moments in the series for people to be like, okay, that's messed up.
Yeah,
or, oh man, that's not okay.
You might have actually seen a vocal minority that were upset that it was diluted versus the source material, but I think they were probably a minority among the populace.
Yeah, as much as I love the source material, I think even though it was in fact eased up for the anime, it definitely it was appropriate. It was fine. It was there was censorship there. It wasn't as much as, let's say, other fantasy shows because it's still a dark fantasy. But it wasn't, like I said, nearly as bad as the manga or light novel. But that's not to say that it wasn't fully okay. It was, in my mind, it was like part of me says like this is okay, I get it, and then part of me's like, okay, maybe this was a little too far. But that was just my opinion. I don't know. I read a lot of light novels, so I wasn't too. I was expecting it, so maybe that's why. I'm a little less like squeamish about it or whatever. Nonetheless, it was fun. I guess the best way to describe Goblin Slayer is a lot of people approach it as a doom slaughter series, and at times it is. At times he does go off and absolutely slaughter a bunch of goblins. But other times I like to approach it as it's more of a recovery series. I saw someone on Reddit mention that a long time ago. Maybe it was in episode 1. Somebody brought that up, and I'd seen that on the Goblin Slayer forums before. Goblin Slayer Reddit. He has his own Reddit. Somebody mentioned that it is a big recovery story, and I get that. And I think that's a better way to approach the series than it's just supposed to be dark and edgy. Because there is more in the underlying tone to it in terms of how Goblin Slayer grows as a character. Plus, another thing that makes the series unique is it's not... These are the main characters for the show, but they're not the main characters of the universe. There's a separate group of heroes that goes around and actually does all the demon slaying and the end and saving the world sort of stuff. Goblin Slayer just kills goblins, and then he has a bunch of party members, and it's like playing a D&D campaign, but it's like you have your group, and then your DM kind of like throws in there a little bit in the background, hey, there's this other group that's running around that's actually doing all the world-ending stuff. You guys are just having fun. So I think that was also pretty cool.
And you just have like an overpowered person in your group that really wants to go get the goblins.
Yeah, you basically have a glorified ranger who specializes in hunting goblins and goes absolutely crazy into hunting goblins. I have
a question for you. The finale for this season of Goblin Slayer airs Saturday, I think. Do you, especially with way more source material, do you think they'll be getting more adaptations?
Not for a while. No. I think the English release for the light novel is on book 5. I think I have book 5 on my table. I have book 4 right next to me right now, because I'm currently rereading it. I think book 5 is out in English, or is the last one that came out in English. I don't know about Japan. I'm pretty sure Japan's on like probably 7 or 8. If we were to get a second season of Goblin Slayer, I don't think we'd get it for a while. I think it would still be like a couple years down the line.
How much source material do you think this first season covered?
Oh, I can tell you right now, it covered 4 books.
Okay.
Or it covered three books. Wow. And then
okay,
parts
so
of the
now I
fourth
can
book.
see. Now I understand why you're saying it'll be a little bit.
Yeah, I think it went into. If I just flip through the 4th book here real quick, I'm pretty sure. I don't think it touched on anything in the actual 4th book. Oh no, it did. There is a couple sections of the 4th book that were touched on in this season. They did go a little out of order, but not too much. So yeah, there would definitely be a little bit before we get another season. It stood pretty true to the source material, I'll tell you that much. Again, other than it being a little censored at parts, a little easier to read or watch, I guess in this case, than it was for the light novel. Otherwise, it stayed pretty true.
Yeah,
Also,
and this is done by Studio White Fox, which again, me being at least the anime newbie comparatively of the two of us, I was trying to remember, I've definitely seen that name before. Again, not one of the huge names. I'm like, they're the guys that did Steins Gate and ReZero. No,
yeah,
no wonder they're not afraid to get a little bit darker.
Oh yeah, no, it's gonna be. When I saw that it was White Fox, I was like, okay, it's gonna be just fine. Because I know one of the gripes people had with the series when it came out was people were gonna say, oh, it's gonna be too censored, and I was like, well, I really hope it's censored to some degree. And it was, and White Fox handled it. I think they did mess up. They should have put a warning at the beginning. I don't know if that was something at Crunchyroll's end or if that was something on the Japanese broadcast. I doubt they would put something up like that over there.
I don't. You know what? It may really well depend on the time slot it was airing, because what might have happened, and it's just this interesting dynamic because it's airing on actual cable TV over there, and then over here, our primary way to get it is through these different streaming services, and the streaming services don't have a time slot. So if it was in a time slot over there that this was appropriate without any warning, generally the streaming services don't interfere in any way with that, and they'll just give it to you. I guess the only thing I can think of is a lot of times when I see warnings, it's for a specific episode of a show that normally doesn't do that, i.e. SAO. I think there's a couple other examples that don't quite come to mind, but maybe they just thought, even if you haven't read the source material, you just know it's going to be that bad. I don't know.
Yeah. Overall, though, I liked it. I thought it was a good adaptation. I look forward to the finale. I know it's going to happen. I know exactly what scene they're going to end on, and I very much look forward to seeing it animated. But I would recommend it for anybody who wants like a darker fantasy sort of thing. Who they're tired of, if you like the Slime show because it was like really funny and it was like kind of fluffy at times. And the characters and the stories are just like really fun to be around. Goblin Slayer is the exact opposite in terms of, the characters are fun, but it's darker. It's a lot more serious of an undertone. I loved how true to like D&D sort of elements that Goblin Slayer was. There's specifically a moment in the manga, I think, where the priestess is like registering at the beginning of the series, and she gets handed a D&D 5e sheet, which I thought was really funny. And I don't think they had that moment in the show, but there is a lot of undertones to D&D. So if you're also a fan of like tabletop games and semi-serious role-play games, then I definitely recommend Goblin Slayer. As long as you can handle lots of gore. There's 2 times in the series where there's one time where a rape actually happens and a second time where it gets pretty close. If you can handle those, then I would definitely recommend it. Otherwise, though, I'm gonna stop talking about Goblin Slayer because I've been talking about it.
You're fine. I was just gonna speaking about the D&D aspects of it. That was the main thing that I think is going to eventually get me into it. The same thing, kind of with Slime, just in very different contexts. And then the last thing I was gonna say about Slime, but I forgot. Slime, and I guess it is listed as such, is a comedy not because it's a satire. It's a very different type of comedy than something like Konosuba. It's not like I guess a character's interaction comedy. It's more of like a comedy like it gets a little meta where it's kind of making fun of like the ability he gets, or you sometimes even hear 8-bit music play because they're just they're relating it to a video game in some way. And then real quick, let's take like 10 seconds. I was gonna, as far as a sports show that just a couple shows I didn't watch, but I heard good things about. A sports show that is very unlike the 2 that I saw because they were more drama, more action oriented, was Hinomaru Zumu, which is about sumo wrestling. And then an interesting, like really, I guess, different type of shonen was Karakuri Circus. And they might be a couple I check out later. I just didn't get around to them, but they looked very interesting.
Karakuri Circus. No, oh, here we go. Yeah. Yeah, I haven't seen anything. I've seen a very few things about the sumo wrestling show, but I haven't seen much about the.
This is random. Did you ever see Princess Principal?
No.
Okay, so there was a show that came out this season called Release the Spice, which I think was going for a very similar style, like really colorful, the crazy like jazzy music. Again, I haven't seen it, but I enjoyed Princess Principal, and I'll probably check it out. I just didn't get around to it.
Yeah. I guess I'll briefly talk about. Is there anything else? I watched Fairy Tail. That's still got a while to go. I think that's going to be ongoing for a little bit.
Oh yeah,
that was fun.
You're watching it subbed, right?
Yeah.
Okay. It's funny. It's like the dub cast is the first thing that got me into it, so I might actually have to wait longer because I don't know if they're simul dubbing this season. I'm not sure.
Yeah. the yeah, I really don't have much to say about it. I don't know anything about the source material. I don't know anything about. I haven't. When I finished the first series of Fairy Tail, I took a long break in between the last arc, like the last part I watched and the last arc of the series, and so like my information's all like fuzzy, and I don't really have, I guess the appropriate knowledge to really talk about Fairy Tail. Other than that, I am continuing to watch it. I'm trying my best to piece everything together, but there are still characters that show up, and I'm like, who the hell are you? And I gotta go back and I gotta read. I'm like, oh, it's this person. But I've enjoyed it so far, but I'm not gonna say much more about that. And I tried this Juliet show. I got a couple episodes in. I stopped that.
Yes, I also heard about it. The Juliet show.
Yeah, that was on Amazon? No, where was it? I don't know.
High Dive?
I don't know. I had to do some not so nice stuff to go watch.
Some kind of big news, I guess, that happened in the last couple of months is that Funimation split off from Verve.
Oh yeah, Funimation and Crunchyroll.
At the same time, Verve acquired High Dive. So I wouldn't call them like equal trade-offs, but I know Crunchyroll and Verve is doing its best to just kind of make up for that. And it was also nice. I don't know if you noticed. I think they give like $20 credit to everybody or something, which is 2 months free. But now that's one more subscription you want. If there's any either Funimation exclusive or just dubs in general.
Yeah, I think that's enough for this season. Yeah, my anime of the season, Zombieland Saga. That was just so much fun. My guilty pleasure was. I guess it was also Zombieland Saga, but also Anima Yell.
Anima Yell.
That was really fun. I didn't expect it. They had DDR songs in Anima Yell, like the cover versions of old DDR songs. I was like, what the hell? I thought that was really
goodness.
Fun. Yeah, no, it was a good season. Overall, I liked the season. I watched a lot more this season. I think I plan to watch next season, but I think I see that every time and I end up watching like 8 different things. So, if you have an anime of the season you want to throw in there before we move on.
So, if everything was like done right now, it would probably be Rascal, because in addition to just being enjoyable, it just like, I guess it hit me a little harder and it made me think like every single time I watched an episode. However, I kind of want to reserve that title because Run with the Wind is only halfway done, and it might be one of the best written like sport drama shows I've ever seen. Like the way they went about it was really unique, really different, and really well executed. And it's not even halfway done. Like I think they took a 2-week break.
Yeah, it's a
so
2-core
episode 12 out of 23 doesn't air for another almost 2 weeks. So they're not even halfway done. So it's hard for me to pass judgment on it. But I really enjoyed Rascal. I enjoyed a lot of shows this season. I think normally I only watch before this because I started watching as airing either the beginning of the year or the end of last year. And I would generally watch like 2 to 3 shows. And this season it was, more like, 7 or 8, which was crazy. So this was a really good season.
All right, that about finishes it for fall. We talked about. I expected us to talk about that for a while because we didn't have like the mid-season episode we would normally have for this podcast. But now we get
mid-season to move or the before the season starts, like anticipation.
Yeah, no, we just kind of had to cram everything into this. But now we get to move on to what is coming out, what we plan to watch. What do you? I got 2 series right now I'm very much looking forward to for the winter 2019. Mob Psycho Season 2, and even more than that, Rising of the Shield Hero.
So I think my biggest 2, and this kind of feels weird to say because I know very little about the second one, but I really like that studio, and I think the synopsis is interesting. We share the number 1, which is Mob Psycho Season 2. My second one was Yakusoku no Neverland, just because I read the synopsis. It looks really interesting. Again, it's like a supernatural psychological mystery, and it's also done by Cloverworks, which does quite a bit of stuff I've enjoyed in the past.
Yeah, I just quickly tapped on the Cloverworks page. I saw they did Bunny Girl Senpai, Darling in the Franxx. Oops, that's not the page I wanted. They also did the Persona 5 adaptation and Slow Start. Slow Start was
They
pretty
did. Fun. I guess that was technically last season, but not this season. But I'm waiting for the Persona 5 animation to get a dub because I really enjoyed the dub of Persona 4 after playing the game, and after really loving Persona 5, it's kind of hard to watch the show with the Japanese voices when you're like so attached to the English voices because we both played the game in English.
Yeah. I also see that Cloverworks is going to be doing the Fate Grand Order adaptations. I'm going to do a whole separate episode of this podcast on Fate Grand Order and Fate as a whole, just so I can eventually talk about Heaven's Feel Part 2.
So I don't know how much progress I can make, but I'm currently binging Fate to try and at least be somewhat part of the conversation.
We'll do a whole separate episode about Fate, and I'll do a whole separate episode outside of that separate episode where I talk about Fate Grand Order, because I do roll that gacha and play that game a lot, and I'm very much looking forward to those adaptations. But enough about that.
I was gonna say, while you're talking about Shield Hero, I might actually just go a little through some of these shows because this is, with the exception of the two I just listed, this is kind of my first time seeing these. So I might just look and see if any pop to my attention while you're talking about Shield Hero.
Okay, I guess I'll start talking about Shield Hero now then. I love Shield Hero. This is another one of those series that I was reading the light novel before it was ever even announced. Me and my good friend Kyle who mods my Twitch channel, which no one's in right now because this is the first time we're doing this, and we're also doing it unannounced. We both got into Shield Hero. He got into it a little bit earlier than I did, and then I ended up borrowing his copies, and I ended up keeping them for the most part because he doesn't have anywhere to put them at home. So basically what Shield Hero is, I guess to sum it up, it's an isekai, but the character is supposed to be... He's not able to use a weapon other than a shield, and if you can't tell, a shield's not really much of a weapon, so he has to find these like alternative modes to fight, or he unlocks these different shields that end up dealing damage when he gets attacked. It's pretty clever. He ends up like growing a party, and he's in this isekai world, but super early on, some stuff happens. He gets thrown out on his luck. A lot of people have said it's the revenge isekai, or the everybody's an asshole in this world isekai. And honestly, for the first half of the series, yeah, no, that's about right. That's about what's gonna happen. Is everyone's gonna be kind of an asshole. Even the main character at times, Naofumi, is gonna be kind of a dick. But all for good reasons. I'll get more into that when the series when we're about halfway through the season, and I can talk about things without spoiling anything too bad. But I definitely look forward to it. I think they're gonna adapt. If it's 24 episodes, if I had to guess, I think they're gonna go all the way. I think it's book 7, maybe into book 8. I don't. There's this big fight that ends up breaking out. I don't want to spoil too much, but yeah, I'm gonna guess maybe we're gonna get an adaptation. It's gonna be about 6 or 7 books, and they might not cover it. I could see them not. It is 24 episodes, and that would be a lot for them to cover. But it wouldn't be impossible. The books aren't incredibly long. If I sit down for a whole day and just read Shield Hero, I can knock out about a book or two. So they're not too bad. The characters are going to be fun. I hope you guys like the characters. I think there's a couple moments with the blonde one here, Philo, or Firo, or however the hell they're going to translate it, because everybody translates it differently. She has some funny moments. Let me see the cast here. Maybe I can... I don't know, man. I don't know how far it's gonna go. Oh, Melty's here. And it might go pretty far. So, I definitely think you should keep your eye out for that one. I think, unless one of these other shows completely blows us out of the water, I think it's gonna be the anime of the season. That's just my prediction. I know it's biased, but I really think if it's adapted right, it'll be the anime of the season. But then we also have Mob Psycho 100, season 2, which I did not expect that so soon. I don't know if you were expecting that so soon.
No, I wasn't, especially when we've waited long for things like is One Punch Man season 2, which is
That's
later
coming.
in the year. Is that a bigger wait? I'm trying.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
One Punch Man came out, then Mob Psycho came out. So yeah, it was One Punch Man season 1, Mob Psycho.
So we're
season
getting
1.
a sequel to Mob Psycho even before One Punch Man. They're gonna be busy this year, Studio Bones.
Yeah, they're gonna be. No, Bones. I don't think Bones is doing the One Punch Man season 2.
No, they're not. But they're doing My Hero, aren't they? Which is also this year, this upcoming 2019.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think they should be. They've been doing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so they're doing this at the beginning of the year, and then they have to do season 4 of My Hero.
Yeah, that's gonna be a.
No, it's the reason they can't do One Punch Man. They One Punch Man's coming out the same time as
as Hero Academia.
I believe so, like fall of 2019.
Yeah. You cut out there for a bit there, but I think you said. I think you added that Hero Academia season 4 comes out at the same time as One Punch Man.
Yeah, in
that's
fall of 2019.
Yeah. Do you have any? I don't really. I've never read any of the source material for Mob Psycho. I have really no expectations other than that. I've seen season 1 of Mob Psycho and I really loved it. It was really fun.
Yeah, it was, and it is one of those really big successes in experimental animation. It's not. It is probably the opposite of just like standard safe animation. Like it goes crazy to really explore the supernatural, like the enemies or the action itself.
I think what's gonna make this upcoming season a lot more. I guess it's bad to say bearable because I really don't have a lot brand new that's coming out that I want to watch. Is that there's gonna be a lot of leftovers. Like I forgot that Annie chart shows leftovers, but I have 1, 2, 3, 4. You have 1, 2, 3, 4 ish 5 series that are left over from the last season.
Yeah, because these are all more than single.
Yeah, no, this is the first. This is gonna be a first time for me that I've had so many series that I'm gonna be watching or plan to pick up that are gonna be left over. Like, I eventually plan to watch JoJo or Sto JoJo sometime this winter break, and so into the next next school year into the.
Are you caught up before this new season? You've seen all 4 parts?
I have not seen anything from JoJo's.
Oh, okay. So you're even farther behind than me, which is rare that I say that, but that's only because someone got to watch it.
Yeah, no, my friend wants me to really watch JoJo, and I've never picked it up. And I know that if I do start it, that I'm going to watch and binge it like crazy. So I've been waiting. But other than that, this upcoming season,
I was gonna point out just 2 things. There's one down here, and I'm gonna once again, because they don't give us the English names, just destroy this pronunciation. Boogie Pop wa Wara Wanai is a Madhouse horror psychological mystery. We don't get horror shows a whole lot. Like it's not the most common genre for sure.
Oh yeah.
So and again, I'm not the biggest like horror fan outside of anime because generally it when it's not done well, it's just boring. But if anyone could pull it off, it is Madhouse. So just by the fact of the studio and the genre, it looks interesting to me.
Yeah. If it's Madhouse, I think it's gonna be good. Close that. I got 2 other series I want to try. This Kaguya-sama, a show series, a comedy psychological romance by A1 Pictures. I was kind of reading up on that. That looks like it might be interesting. And Kakigori, the gambling show.
Yeah, it's getting a sequel. I didn't finish it because it is good. It's just it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy, but Studio Mappa does do a good job with it. It's a very different take on Like it has gambling, but it's not. I don't even know if it's so much about gambling so much as the situations they're put in or how crazy some of these characters are.
I
You've
haven't
never
finished
seen.
season
Oh,
one.
go ahead.
I haven't finished season one, but I know a lot of people who have, and a lot of people who loved it, and a lot of people who are going to enjoy season two. So I
I
expect
will
it to
say
be good.
I've listened to almost all the music from the show because I'm a huge fan of jazz music. The music is great.
And then we also have Data Live season 3.
I was gonna say I've never seen the first two, but now that I'm looking at the genres, I'm actually interested. If it's like well done comedy and it doesn't take itself too seriously, I might enjoy it.
Does it have the ecchi harem tag? It should. I've seen season 1. I didn't finish season 2, but I know a lot of people who were waiting for Data Live season 3. May finally actually go back and catch up on that. Does Crunchyroll have Data Live? I'm gonna check right now if they do.
I can't check because I don't have access to Funimation or Crunchyroll in Colombia, but was it done by the same studio? Because JC Staff did one of my favorite shows, which is Food Wars, which would give me confidence in them being able to do comedy.
I'm checking. I don't see it on Crunchyroll. And I currently have Idol Love Live Sunshine up on my Funimation, so I can't check that one either. So next time or whenever it airs, we'll figure out where it's at.
You know what they need to add to my enemy list would be the most useful thing. Like what sites this streams on. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. Where do I find the show is always the number one question on a new show.
How do I watch this legally?
Starts. How exactly? Well, you need one of these 9 streaming services.
Oh man, that's a whole.
Sentai Filmworks, you have High Dive, you have Hulu, Amazon, Netflix, Crunchyroll, Funimation.
It's like, oh god, I want to throw up. There's so many. Like the Netflix is fine. I had Netflix before I had Crunchyroll and Funimation apps, and then I got Crunchyroll, and then they split off, and now I had to get Funimation. And I already had Amazon.
I'm just glad that Amazon, exactly, because we're a student, and then they stopped the madness that was them trying to charge after Prime. I don't know if you remember Amazon strike.
No, I don't want to talk about it. It's so nasty.
He's erased it from his head.
But it's, I just really hope we don't get any more. I really hope that like these 4 or 5 main ones, and then the off one here or there is it. Like that's it. No more streaming services. No more. I don't want any more. I don't want to pay a certain amount of money per month to watch one series. Like Crunchyroll and Funimation, I love it, and Netflix, I love it because I can watch other things with it. Amazon gives me the bonus of I can also get discounts on my packages. But otherwise, I don't want to buy any more subscription services, and I'm definitely not buying any subscription services for like a one-off series. Not happening.
When I see a Hulu exclusive, I just cry because I'm like, I don't want to pay to watch ads.
Yeah.
That's not something I want to do.
I don't. That's when you got to be a bad person for a little while.
Oh goodness.
I don't.
I have a question for you before we wrap. So because this is the first time we're ever doing one, there are a lot of 2018 fantastic shows that we didn't get to talk about. So I was wondering if in the next couple weeks before we do like a mid-season anything, if you wanted to do a special like 2018 episodes, because we're almost on the new year. It's going to be 2019 in less than a week.
I was gonna, because ideally what would happen when we're doing these is we would come up to this time of the year. It's the end of the year. It's the end of 2018. And we would be in the middle of a mid-season transition. So we wouldn't actually be talking about a bunch because we would just be wrapping up what we're watching and then talking about what we'd want to watch next. We went so long this first episode, I didn't think we were going to do it. So if you want to, we can totally, at a different time, convene and talk about what our anime of 2018 was. I think it would be easier for us to do like our 4 anime of the seasons per season, so the winter, the spring, the summer, the fall.
And then maybe just briefly, we already went in depth today about
fall 2018.
Fall. We could even briefly talk about winter, spring, and summer, and they weren't nearly as dense. So I feel like all of those combined be similar to the length of this.
Yeah, I'm definitely down for doing that at a later point. But yeah, I just kind of wanted to talk about the end of fall and the transition, and kind of just do a pilot, just to kind of see what we could do. And we talked for a long time. I felt it was really good. This is definitely going to be one of the longer episodes. I have no idea how long it's been. It's probably been like an hour at this point, at least. And I expected these to actually shoot for around like 30 minutes. I guess any last questions you have about maybe about like Shield Hero, because that's going to be the series that I'm going to know the most about come the mid-season, the next time we convene.
I guess specifically about Shield Hero, like I know you were talking about it, but give me like sales pitch. If someone who is tired of isekai or they just don't understand why they would watch it, what would you tell them?
It's a different form of isekai in the sense that it's not, the main character isn't stupid broken at the beginning. He's not going to be given all this fame and glory. He's going to be bullied for a bit. He's going to be tossed around. But he's smart about what he does. He's an isekai character that is smart. And that's not something you can say about some of these people. I would definitely say Naofumi is going to be one of the smartest, if not the smartest isekai. He would probably go on par with the guy from Log Horizon, the main character from there, in terms of like isekai people who are in this other world and are smart about it. And not just like they're in a situation because they're powerful, they look like they're smart, they get out of it, like that stupid cell phone series that came out like a couple seasons ago, in Another World of My Smartphone. That guy wasn't smart. He had a god tier cell phone. Shield Hero is smart in the sense that he's got to approach situations differently, and he's going to be pretty much down on his luck and in bad situations, and he's going to have to get out of it with the best of his knowledge, and he'll do just fine. So I guess that's my best thing about the series, is that the guy is actually competent. Yeah.
And I don't know a ton about the studio adapting it, Kingdom of Citrus, but they did do Made in Abyss, which is one of the best shows from.
Oh yeah, people love Made in Abyss. I expect the art, like, I don't think the art's gonna be super crazy. I can't imagine what. Oh, they did Is to Order a Rabbit. Sorry. I don't know exactly what crazy art scenes they're gonna adapt, but I have faith in this studio to do well. They did Tokyo Magnitude from here, as I can see. Is the Order a Rabbit. They did Black Bullet, which was very good.
They did one of my favorite summer shows of this year, which was Revue Starlight.
Yeah, they did Made in Abyss. So I have full faith that they'll be fine. So that's it. I'll talk more about Shield Hero when we get to the mid-season, and I can give you a better prediction on where it's going to end, and I can talk more about the characters in the series as well. That's ultimately one that I should kind of do its own episode about. But since it's not like an overarching series with multiple different like plot lines, or like, so like Fate has a bunch of different series. I say it's three, but there's three main series, and there's Apocrypha and stuff. Or there's something like Index, where it's Index, Railgun, and now eventually Accelerator.
Yeah, it's got quite a different few moving parts.
Those make more sense to do like their own episodes for. Shield Hero, there's a lot to talk about, but there's not as much as, let's say, those. So I guess, yeah. Yeah, no, that's it. That's all I got. I look forward to those. Yeah, no, that's it. Other than, we'll probably do this again. Let's see. Today is December 27th. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Sometime around Valentine's Day, we'll throw some love in the air. Early February, maybe about a week or so in. We'll convene again around there, talk about the mid-season of winter 2019. But other than that,
cool.
I'm
and
done.
A possible special 2018 episode.
A possible the potential for a what our 2018 anime of the year was.
Yeah, but the for sure is the
Valentine's Day mid-season.
Talk for the first time about 2019 anime, because right now we're just talking about what we think, not like what we've seen.
Yeah, we're just kind of kind of setting up, as far as we're aware, there could be something on this list right now we're scrolling through. I have no idea. Like, maybe this Revisions show is going to be really good, or maybe this 5 Toban show is going to be really good. Who knows? I don't know. We're going to find out, though.
I was gonna say we didn't get the chance to do a prediction on this past season, but I think we would have been pretty wrong.
Oh yeah, no, I would have been, like I mentioned it before, I never would have talked about Zombieland Saga, never would have talked about Anime Yell. I really would have spent the entire time talking about Goblin Slayer, Slime, Fairy Tail, and Index. I would not have talked about
I wouldn't have
any of
talked
these.
about Rascal. I specifically, unless you got me to, probably wouldn't have Slime. Like there was not only was it a season of a lot of shows, but it was a season of a lot of surprises.
Yeah, there was a lot of things this last season that definitely made it. Like, I want to do these prediction things because at the same time as we wrap up the last season, because it's like we don't really talk about a lot when it comes to these prediction series. But like mid-season, we're gonna have. I feel as though we're gonna have a bit to talk about, or at least I'm gonna pray we have a bit to talk about.
Well, I think so because you can also. There's nothing wrong with touching on mid-season. The leftovers should be finishing as well, so you can add some information there, and it also means that the wrap-up won't be nearly as long because you don't have to talk about the entirety of the show. You're just doing half and half.
Yeah.
With the mid and the end. Yeah.
Yeah. Next time we do this, the mid-season will be about half of the length of this one, and I don't expect the wrap-ups to be nearly as long as this one was. But this was the first episode. This was a lot to cover because we covered all of last season in our predictions for this one. So
the pilot, as you may say.
I did. Episode 1, the pilot. But other than that, I'm good, Brendan. I'm good to go back to watching some Love Live and
all right,
Shield Hero. All right, perfect. I'm just gonna. That's a wrap.